non stand close to the
camera. Look beyond that.
See what they say. If you don't go to the camera, they will see us go well. Otherwise, they'll be like, somebody's speaking in the sea of people. You don't know who.
Okay. All right, dear participants, warm greetings from the capital city of Maldives, Mali, where Asian Development Bank and UNESCAP actually running a single window workshop. So this really relates to the webinar, the topic of the webinar today. Today, the webinar, we are going to look at the most important two initiatives on single window development. One is the amendment to the IMO FAO Convention, and this relates to the IMO single windows. And also, we are going to look into the EU single window for customers. So this, these two initiatives definitely have a lot of global implications. So we get together today to learn together. We have really well-renowned experts to share their expertise with us. So my name is Timothy Wang. I'm an Economic Affairs Officer working for UNESCAP. So it's really a great pleasure to work with colleagues to organize this workshop and facilitate the opening session and the first session. So with this, I would like to give the floor to my colleague, Yang Dua, Chief Trade Policy and Facilitation Section, Trade Investment and Innovation Division, UNESCAP. And for those who attended the webinar before, you may recall that often Yang recorded his message. But today is different because we are running the single window workshop in Maldives, and we would like you to see not only Yang, but also the participants. And later, we are going to also invite the participants to say hello to you. And Yang and actually will open this together with our Asian Development Bank colleague, Ms. Elisabetta Gantil, and she is a senior economist from Asian Development Bank. So I give the floor to them, and we promise to be quite brief.
Thank you very much. Yes, we will be very brief. So very happy to be here in Mali with the ADB colleagues. We've been working together, ADB and ESCAP for many, many years. We're just told that, reminded that the Asia Pacific Trade Facilitation Forum, we organized it for almost 15 years, right? So we had 10 sessions already. Maybe the next one actually could be in Mali. We are open to countries application actually for next year, right? So that could be one option. On my side, I mean, I really look forward to the discussion and to this workshop because it's going to talk about two very important developments, right? Single window and also the maritime single window procedures and standards of IMO. So that's very good. And it's also, I think, our 15th webinar in the series. So I think by now we got more than 3,000 participants attending this webinar series. It's going strong. And in fact, this one is the one where we have the most collaboration. I mean, the webinar series is ADB, ESCAP, and ICC. But for this specific webinar, we have WCO, and we have also CFACT and UNEC with us, so that's great. Let me leave it at this, thanking all the speakers in advance for all the information they're going to share with us.
Thank you so much, Jan. I'm very happy that my ADB colleagues asked me to give an opening on behalf of all the ADB team that has been involved in this wonderful webinar. On my part, as someone from the South Asia Department of the Asian Development Bank, the only thing I can add is that the importance of this trade facilitation agenda for South Asia cannot be underestimated. Really, the impact that these initiatives could have is huge. So we are very happy to continue to work in this area. And because Tenfei and Jan have already said it all, I would stop right here and I would say Thank you for this wonderful opportunity, and we are looking forward to a lot of learning today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jan and Elisabetta. Now I give the floor to our colleague from ECE, United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. So we have Maria Rosaria Cesarilla with us. So Maria, you are there?
Hi, good morning. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Yeah, sorry, we had some technical problem here in the meeting room. We are, as you might know, we have our forum going on in Geneva with a lot of meetings going on at the same time. And, we are very happy to be with you. But it's not really easy sometimes to swap from one meeting to the other. So as I said, I'm honored to join this webinar that we have organized with ESCAP, ADB, ICC, and WCO. The United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, UNEC, is one of the UN regional commission, and we cover 56 member states in the Northern Hemisphere, from the United States and Canada across Europe, including the Balkans, Caucasus, Eastern Europe, and Central Asia. UNEC promotes regional development and economic integration by developing norms, standards, and legal instruments, and by providing policy advice and technical cooperation. The United Nations Center for Trade Facilitation and Electronic Business, UNCFACT, sorry, located within UNEC, but with a global membership, is responsible for developing a recommendation and standards that simplify and harmonize international trade. UNCFACT developed the concept of single window in the late 90s as a platform that streamlined trade by enabling the submission, processing, and exchange of information between traders and governmental agencies through a single point of entry. And this reducing duplication, processing time, and minimizing errors. UNCFACT has been instrumental in promoting the adoption of single window platforms around the world, and developing some 6 policy recommendations, international recognized, as well as standards and guidelines to support implementation and ensuring interoperability with other countries and with other systems. The move forward and towards a digital paperless environment will include additional services like payment, real-time tracking. Further, this can further simplify and streamline trade while reducing its environmental impact. Single window platform have shown to reduce the time and cost of trading across border and increase transparencies and predictability, and build trust and confidence in a trade process. The latest trends and implications on single window are exciting and promising. Our UNCFACT domain coordinator, Nilima, that is here with us, will share more on our latest project in this area. I wish you all a successful discussion and look forward to working together to advance accessible and reliable trade. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria. And now we also have 2 opening remarks from our partner organizations, one from ICC, another from WCO. For this, the 2 organizations already sent the pre-recorded video. I would like to ask my colleague in Bangkok to open this. So, Queen Nok, please.
Greetings from Paris. On behalf of the International Chamber of Commerce, a warm welcome to today's webinar on advancing single window development. My name is Valerie Picard, and I am ICC's Head of Trade. First, I would like to thank all the co-organizers, our colleagues from UNESCAP, UNECE, WCO, and ADB. I would also like to thank all the speakers, as well as participants, for taking the time to be here today. Single windows are key trade facilitation tools. They provide a centralized platform that can simplify processes, further digitalization, improve transparency, and enhance border agency cooperation. But they do not operate in a vacuum. They require an enabling environment to ensure that they are effectively and fully deployed. For this reason, we welcome the two recent developments that will be discussed during today's webinar, and that will have a big impact on the trading community. These developments build on important advances in single window expansion. One big impetus has been the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement, which pushes governments to establish digital single windows, recognizing their importance in streamlining trade procedures. For single windows to be successfully set up, however, proper management of information flows is critical. In this area, our colleagues from the WCO, UNECE, and UNCFACT have done a lot of important work to help harmonize and standardize data interchanges. This alignment and use of standards are an important priority for ICC. Through the ICC Digital Standards Initiative, we are driving and advocating for the adoption and creation of standards that are necessary for a paperless trading environment. On a practical level, the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation, an initiative co-led by ICC, has been working to expand single windows in developing countries by digitalizing and linking border processes to existing single windows, thereby optimizing their reach and use. From our experience, we know that there is no one-size-fits-all solution for single windows. But today's webinar will highlight progress and lessons of a global importance. There is incredible trade facilitation potential with single windows, if done right. So let me end by wishing you a successful webinar today. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome to the webinar on Advancing Single Window Development, Latest Trends and Implications. My name is Brendan O'Hearn and I serve as the Deputy Director in charge of Procedures and Facilitation at the World Customs Organization. The importance of digitalization and regional cooperation in the global trade environment cannot be overstated. As we navigate these complexities, national single windows and the digitalization of border procedures offers immense potential to facilitate cross-border trade and strengthen regional cooperation. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our esteemed partners, UNESCAP, UNECE, the ICC, and the ADB for the joint organization of this important webinar. National single windows are vital components of digital trade ecosystems, providing a one-stop shop for traders to submit information and documents to multiple government agencies involved in cross-border trade. They help streamline and simplify trade procedures, reducing the time and cost of doing business while enhancing transparency, predictability, and security. The WCO has developed a range of tools and guidance to assist customs administrations and other stakeholders in understanding the requirements and benefits of national single windows, as well as best practices for implementation. Today, we will explore the evolving landscape of this critical aspect of trade facilitation from a global perspective, including the recent advancements in ports worldwide and the European Union. As we discuss these developments, we will also shed light on the potential opportunities and challenges for customs administrations, governments, and the trading community. Once again, I extend my gratitude to all the organizers and speakers for their important contributions to this event. Your expertise and insights will greatly benefit our shared understanding of the current state and future direction of single window development. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to a fruitful and engaging discussion that will help us collectively advance the goals of trade facilitation and border management. Thank you.
Thank you all to the speaker for setting the scene. So given the time available, we have only 1.5 hours. I would like to quickly move to the substantive discussion. So the first speaker I'm going to introduce to you with great pleasure is Mr. Jack Suhak Juhu. Sorry if I didn't pronounce your name properly. He's the manager at BIMCO, and it probably don't need me to introduce him. He has a lot of industry experience, and quite recently he also joined the annual meeting on this single window initiative. So we have very in-depth knowledge of the topic. So with great pleasure, Jack, please take the floor. I think our colleague in Bangkok can see your slide. If it's okay. Now, can you turn on the slide? For each speaker, we have three speakers in this session. If possible, I would like to request speaker to talk about 10 minutes. And then they will leave us some time for questions and answers. For the participants, warm welcome. When you listen to the speaker, you can also send a question through Zoom chat. So if a quick question, I may actually ask the speaker to make a quick clarification. But if this, some questions need a lot of discussion, I will give all the questions until we finish all three presentations. And for anyone from a Russian-speaking country, we also have interpretation available. Please utilize the service. So Jeff, the floor.
Many thanks, Zheng-Fei, and also many thanks to the organizers for allowing me to speak on this pertinent session. And we believe it's a really important subject which is close to our business. I assume that you can see my presentation as I only can see the room where you're sitting, but that is good as well. Very, very short. BIMCO, which I represent, is the world's largest direct membership organization, which has ship owners, charterers, ship brokers, and managers as part of their members. And we are covering just about 60% of the world fleet. And in this forum, it's important to say that the facilitation trade as such is very close to our business. And since we was established in 1905, we have helped our members keeping world trade moving, so to speak. And we have made our business to help our members with their business. But on the subject, maritime transport as such is indeed the backbone of world commerce. And when it comes to digitalization as part of this transport, it's fair to say that the maritime industry has been lacking slightly behind. But we believe that that is about to change as there's a strong focus on that new shipping technologies, and in particular using the digital opportunities is part of the new future. I will try to change my slide. Yeah. The slide is showing all the various stakeholders in the logistic chain. There's a lot of different interpretations of what digitalization is when it comes to the maritime ecosystem. If you look at the masters on board, it's about communication with other ships and exchange routes and so on and so forth. And if you talk about the people in the operational department, it's about receiving fuel data, getting big data to assess, sensor readings and so on and so forth. Very important subject for the operation. And if you go to the charters, it's about where is my ship and where's my cargo. It's about unloading and loading, so lots of communication as well. To the hinterland and the ports, it's about when is the ship arriving and when is it departing. And then, of course, we have a cluster of information related to the administrative authority. And it's about the clearance of the ship. It's about exchange information prior to the port call and after the port call. So all the stakeholders has different focus depending on the logistic chain, where you are in the logistic chain. But it also means that the same type of data are exchanged in very different means across different actors. And that is to some extent not really efficient and certainly not sustainable. So the focus has been, how can we exchange information in a smart way, harmonized way, in such a way that the data format is more or less essential, and also the interoperability, which has also been mentioned in the key opening speech, so we can exchange information from platform to platform. Facilitation in shipping in general is a process of moving the goods and probably also people easier and more efficient. And that can involve a streamline of paperwork and bureaucracy. So by digitalizing that process will simply help us bringing down the admin burden, but also have a much smarter way of exchanging information. This slide illustrates a flow of milestones which has been established by the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, which is also a UN body. And you can see some of the more important issues which I highlight in red, that the Facilitation Committee, who is in charge of all the facilitation in 1965, established the Facilitation Convention, and that was to streamline the paper-based forms on the reporting facilities. But in 2001, the FAL committee approved the so-called IMO compendium, which is a description on how these paper-based forms could be digitalized in using the UN EDIFACT data model. And that has actually served well for the shipping community for many years. But in 2016, there was a clear need to open a review of the compendium format, as it was somehow requested and it was found a good appropriate that the compendium also open for other standards and from, for instance, the World Customs Organization, the WCO, and also ISO standards, and that should be included into the compendium. And that was maybe the keystone for establishing a specification neutral reference model. And soon after, the IMO, the WCO, the UNECE, and the ISO established a kind of partnership agreement in order to establish this IMO e-compendium with a IMO reference data model and corresponding data sets. And long story short, at the end of that tunnel, IMO adopted a resolution saying that by 1st January 2024, which is less than 9 months away, it will be compulsory for ports around the world to operate a so-called maritime single window for the electronic exchange of information required on the ship's arrival into the port and their stay, and of course also information about their departure. So that is something which will come to the future very, very soon. I have also listed that the European Maritime Single Window environment will be fully implementable by mid-2025. So how is this going to interact with all the players in the agreement? diverted the information into groups, having nautical data, we have the administrative data, we also have the operational data, and all in the middle, in the interchange, we have this IMO reference data model, which is a segmentic data model, only with the purpose of harmonizing the data IDs so we can exchange from platform to platform in a smart and easy way. In 2019, IMO established a so-called special expert group on data harmonization with the partners behind the agreement, but also with industry and member states. So all the good work from all the various data models could actually be fed into this e-compendium. Speaking about what kind of data have we captured, we have grouped it into 5-ish categories. We have the specific ship integrated data, which is the big data, the temperatures, as I talked about. We have the nautical data, operational data, administrative data, but also as a new element, the business to business. And currently, the IMO reference data model consists of about 500 data elements, but additional 150 data elements are pending in the data model, and further about 200 new data elements are up for discussion in the very near future. So all in all, the total number of data elements or data informations will be around 1,000, maybe 1,200. And these informations are related to the maritime segment of transport. So here we are. I have just illustrated some of the information where they actually feed into among the nautical, administrative, and the operational data. Unfortunately, it is so that the IMO compendium has got a lot of traction, both from industry but also from member states under the IMO. And a fortunate thing is that when IMO has collected these data elements into the compendium, there's a subsequent maintenance part which feed that information into the ISO standard, the 28005, part 1, 2, and 3, and specifying the necessary guidance for the information on port clearance, but also on the message transmission and business scenarios and message structures and software requirements and all that. So ISO is configuring the data standard for software, and both for simple solutions, but also for more advanced solutions. So we actually believe that the IMO compendium is a solution which may fit most solutions in general, but it's about that the ships will collect information and pass it to the maritime single window. And of course, the other way around as well, if authorities need to pass information to the ship. At the far right, you can see that illustrates which kind of authorities are involved, what kind of information. That is not only business to business, it's also government to business information and business to government information, and also information shared between ports. So it's government to government information. And that in general will have the IMO reference data model as being the center of all this. We also call this model the bow tie model. So it's easy for people to understand that something is fed into the reference data model and something is passed to the single window. The shipping, which I represent, is mainly focusing on the left side, because as soon as it's passed into the single window, we actually are not in control of where the information will go, but that will be taken part and care of by the maritime single window in the various countries. My last slide is about an outlook for the future. We certainly believe that the maritime single window and the IMO compendium is key to a solution. We learned the other week when we attended the Singapore Maritime Week that they have established a so-called digital port, where they have saved 150,000 man-hours per year by establishing this digital port and the digital ocean portals. We also learned that in Korea, they have this port MIS portal, and they have saved around $100 million a year. So there's a lot of potential put into it. And that is without mentioning how much savings we can gain from shipping industry as such. We also see so-called digital port corridors is being established. There's around 10 or 12 being established as we speak. So a lot of benefits is waiting to be picked up. But the key word to the success is collaboration. And without harmonization, communication, interoperability, and of course, collaboration, we can do nothing. For the digitalization and data exchange to work efficiently, all stakeholders must get involved in the process and talk to each other and share knowledge and experience in order for us to establish a digital maritime community to the benefit of the whole industry, not only the ships, but also the authorities and those behind. And 10 minutes is very short. I hope that I managed, but thank you, Tenfei. Please take it away from here.
Thank you so much for walking through the single window, and my best knowledge here, speaking in the Maldives workshop, the geographic look on Maldives, so maritime window certainly very relevant, important for this country, and also I believe relevant participant here. Participants, just be reminded that if you have any questions, just share your question each, and later on I'm going to pick up some questions for discussion. So given the time available, I think we move to second speaker, European Union. So I have my colleague called Zhao from EU, is the head of the section digital customer. So I don't think I can find a more suitable person to introduce your single window to us. Please.
Hello, colleagues. Thank you very much. I hope you hear me well.
Yes, I can hear you really well.
All right. Thank you very much. So indeed, many thanks for the opportunity to intervene in this very interesting seminar. As you mentioned, Tenfei, so I'm the official at the European Union in charge of the EU single window environment for customs, of the legal and policy aspects, as well as the business implementation aspects. And it has been a close cooperation with the different organizations that are co-organizing this event. And I'm happy to share here the state of play with a recent key milestone of the entry into force of the regulation at EU level, which establishes the EU single window environment for customs. I have a couple of slides to take you through the state of play. So I will try to share my screen with you. And let me know if you see those.
Yes, I confirm that. Oh, this I can see from my yes, we can see it.
All right. So thank you very much. So just to say that, well, I'm from the European Commission, from the department in charge of taxation and customs. So we are dealing with the customs union, and we are working very closely with a number of services in the European Commission. And I would like just to say, notably our colleagues from the Transport Director General, so-called DG Move, as the previous speaker mentioned, the maritime single window. So we are also associated from the customs viewpoint, from my team, to ensure that the maritime single window environment fits very well with the customs systems. Before moving to the next slide, just to mention a little bit about the name of the initiative. So as you can see, it contains the word environment. So this is important to us. This has been important to us from the beginning to indeed acknowledge that our objective is not to build a new system, but rather to make interoperability between custom systems and non-custom systems work. And the whole initiative is about that, is about creating a digital framework for cooperation between customs authorities and non-customs authorities, which we call partner competent authorities, at the EU borders. So the term environment is key. It is seen from the customs angle, but not all member states of the EU will build it from custom systems. Some member states of the EU will build it from other single windows, like maybe from the maritime single window, which could become then a transport single window. So this is a little bit on the semantic of the initiative. The slide here shows different aspects, and it's a bit crowded, but I'll take you through it. I wanted to synthesize in one slide the different aspects. So on the top left, you can see the scope of the initiative. So we are here talking about making the digital cooperation between non-customs domain and customs domain work in a seamless, smooth way at the customs clearance. So this is what the initiative is about. It is focused on the customs clearance, and it is an enabler of the digital cooperation between customs authorities of the EU member states and non-customs authorities. And those are multiple. We started with the authorities dealing with sanitary and phytosanitary formalities. We expanded then to agriculture, to product safety and compliance, to dual-use goods, etc. So the domains are expanding, and as you know, as your practitioners, you know very well that customs is working with a multitude of authorities at the border, and often comes as last in the chain to release the goods in the respective countries or customs unions. So this is about the scope. The timeline, so we have started about 10 years ago, and one of the criteria, I believe that one of the approach that allowed us to progress and to be successful is to start with piloting. Single window, as the previous speaker has indicated, and also in the introductory remarks, is a project about organization transformation. It is not an IT project purely. It is really about bringing different organizations to work together. So it is about alignment of processes, alignment of data, or understanding of data. And then, of course, IT comes and does its work. So starting with a pilot initiative, very focused on a couple of non-customs formalities, allowed us to learn and to grow, both internally with the Commission, with the member states of the EU, and with the different authorities. In parallel to building the pilot, which is a business operation pilot, we have been working on the legislation. And we have now, at the level of the EU, a regulation that has entered into force last December. So it's very fresh. And therefore, as a regulation, it applies to all EU member states. So to the right of the slide, what does the regulation mandate? It mandates two core components of the single window. So the first building block is to enable smooth digital cooperation between authorities, customs and non-customs at the border. That's what we call the government-to-government, G2G exchanges. By early 2025, all EU member states will be connected and will be exchanging information between the different authorities at the border. So that's the first building block. The second building block is the so-called business-to-government functionality. And in fact, that one builds on the first one. So as you understand very well, first we interoperate the authorities on the border, and then we aim to build the true single window, which will take a bit more time. And the horizon there is at the end of the decade to have it in place, and even early 2031 to have it fully in place. And the business to government is about enabling a single channel of communication between the economic operator, so the traders, and all the authorities at the border for the customs clearance. So this is very ambitious, given the landscape and given the fact that we are a customs union, but this is a journey that will also require to go step by step in order to establish it. So two key features or building blocks, G to G, government to government, and B to G, business to government. On the policy domain, what you see at the middle is the different policy domains that are linked with a single window. So it is very diverse. It goes from policies dealing with environment, with climate protection. It deals with firearms, with the new pieces of legislation that the European Union has come up with, like the forced labor, to fight against forced labor, proof of origin, etc. So it is growing, and it is made in a way that it will continue to expand with overarching principles which are based around data interoperability. And of course, we are compliant with the World Customs Organization data model. That helps a lot. And we have also been working very closely with our UNCFACT colleagues to bridge between the different data models. So some key takeaways, I already mentioned the fact that going with a pilot initiative is very helpful. If you are starting your journey, I will warmly recommend to go that path, to go with a pilot and to identify which organization at the border is willing to help do the piloting. There was a high level of coordination between the different legislators at the EU, which built on the experience from the business pilot. For our partners from third countries, there will be benefits, indirect benefits, in the fact that single window is all about going digital. It's all about making processes smoother, less reliant on human interactions. And many of our partners have access to our e-licensing, e-certification systems. Like, for example, in the sanitary and phytosanitary area, we have this traces system, which is open to many countries. And the fact that single window will link such system to national customs of the EU is a plus for the third countries. The next slide here, I just will go through it very quickly. Would like to mention that we have built recently e-learning modules, e-learning courses, which are accessible to all. So you have the links here. I have shared the presentation with Teng Fei. So there is an overall ABC of the EU single window environment for customs, which presents in detail the regulation, the legislation, the core principles. And then our objective is to have a series of dedicated modules per domain. And the first one is about the enforcement of the regulation on F-gas. So F-gas are those products that are nocive to the environment, that are highly regulated. And via the EU single window environment for customs, the EU will be in a better position to control the imports in this domain. So there is a first module there, accessible to all. We have our webpage on the Europa website, which is the general website of the EU about our different initiatives. And I also put here the link to the regulation itself, should you wish to go and have a look at it. So this is what I wanted to share with you. I was asked by Teng Fei to be very brief, to allow the speakers to intervene and for some interactions. I am at your disposal if you would like to ask questions today or in the future. Thank you very much. So Teng Fei, back to you. It looks like you're on mute, Teng Fei. I don't hear you, or maybe it's on my side. But it indicates that you're on mute from the screen, I see.
We can't hear him. We can't hear him.
Sorry.
Yes, now we hear you, Teng Fei.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, now yes.
Okay. I apologize because we do operate a few computers here in the room. We are also trying out the new modality to deliver this webinar, and often we sit in the office to chair the meeting, moderate the meeting, but it's really live, so we use few computers. So in this session, we have one more speaker. That we, I think, last not least, Mr. Anne American. I actually really asked him to ask big people, because when we talk about single window, we actually always have the final user in mind. So the bottom line is the how user that we, in the end, will benefit from a single window, and how users actually can adjust their strategy in order to benefit from a single window. So I'm sure that Ang is going to, share his expertise, give us advice on how users can adjust. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching. What a pleasure it is to be with you. I hope you can hear me, you can see me. I will be sharing a few slides in a moment. So my name is Arnie Mielken. I'm a trade specialist and I'm officially a customs geek. So I love everything about customs. So I'm delighted to be with you. I've been also a proud member of the global trade community for some 20 years with representing a wide range of businesses, importers, exporters, freight forwarders, shipping lines, tax advisors, and also consultants. And I'm based in London in the UK. And I've been a member of the Trade Contact Group of DG TaxSuit of the European Commission also for that long already. So that is a primary consultative forum whereby we interact with the European Commission. So I'm especially delighted to have representatives of the European Commission on this call. I represent on that group, on that connection group with the European Commission, the European Ship Suppliers Association. So that links me to the first speaker, the BIMCO speaker on the FEL and the IMO work. This is a group of companies that operate just in time, requiring access to vessels. So trade friction, red tape, duplication of data are killers of modern ship supply. And the same can be said for all the clients I represent, over a wide range of industries of any size, from the micro enterprises, the one-man bands, to SMEs and large and complex companies that operate worldwide. The Trade Contact Group, as I said, is a primary form of dialogue, trade consultation with the European Commission of trade associations representing all sectors. And as such, we discuss, debate, comment, and talk about and ask questions for clarification on issues, in particular, the European environment for the single window, as you've just heard. Now, I'm grateful to the UN, I'm grateful to the organizers of this webinar, to the ICC and the WCO for relentlessly pushing the single window trade initiatives around the world. We need you and we are grateful. The brief I was given to present to you is to make a substantive contribution to what the global trade community needs, wants, and will do as regards the single window. Now, I'm also to comment on what the presentation have just said and what I've heard and what I think about it. So there's a lot for me to do in the short amount of time, and I am supposed to give the views of the world on business. I'm not sure, but never mind, I'll try my best, hey? But do bear in mind, of course, there are numerous factors that will shape the response, right? Where the business is located, how big the business is, what sector it operates in, the trade volumes, and many other factors. So I'm going to give my view, and I'm going to try my best after having consulted the TCG members, the Trade Contact Group members, but also the ship supply community and my clients. And I will summarize it in two key questions. And I'm going to share my screen in a moment, so you'll have these slides as well. The two key questions I'm going to focus on are these. How can a business really benefit from the single window initiative as regards customs, as regards trade? And what do businesses need in order to leverage these opportunities? Now, forgive me, this will be at pretty high level, but hey, that's the nature of the beast. Before I do that, a very quick comment on the two presentations that we've heard. First, maritime single window environment. So I want to work closely with the IMO, with BIMCO, with the shipping community on the maritime single window environment. That's very close to the ship supplier industry, and that would be fantastic. We welcome the data harmonization efforts, but we do recognize there's quite a long way to go. And on the EU single window, thank you for this comprehensive state of play on the single window customs environment. We note that you are creating digital cooperation frameworks and not a new system. Now, I have a lot of comments on that, but there'll be another time and place where we can talk about this in particular. But the comments I will make now are also directly related to the EU single window initiative too. So let me turn to my presentation, and please allow me a second to share my screen. Clicking my way through. And there you are. You should be seeing what I'm seeing, and that is the main stage, the main screen. So 2 questions I'm going to look at today, and they are this: how can businesses really benefit? Well, I would argue that businesses will benefit from a single window when they are user-centric and have a genuine trade facilitation as their key objective. Now, you will have heard from the presentation of the European Commission just now, there are lots of objectives, international corporations, the likes of it, but also we must not forget that for authorities, the first user might be not the business community, might be a member state, might be a customs administration, and they also have their particular internal needs. Now, this is great and necessary, I understand, but overall, if we go to the very end of it, it is the user, that is the importer, the exporter, the trade community that will use this single window. So we should adopt a user-centric approach and explain to us, the trade community, what are the benefits for importers, exporters, and the likes. And at the moment, looking at the communication from the EU single window, for example, I'm lacking this a little bit. I'm seeing a lot of benefits for administrations and member states, but what about the user-centric view? How is this going to help me? And what I think this means, the user-centric approach and how businesses can really benefit, is if we looked at particular simplifications that could be in store for the single window, such as cost savings opportunity. That would be a real benefit. Can we spell out what the single window means for saving costs for businesses? And that could mean, for example, how do we get away from having to declare goods via a customs declaration? Yeah, I know that's pretty revolutionary, but if we have a lot of commercial data, surely that must be enough. And in times of single window, can we get to a position whereby I can give you my commercial data and that is it? Do not ask me for anything that I don't already have. What about an API-first approach? What about the possibility of connecting single windows with national system, different systems? Sure. But also connecting a single window with my system, the importer, the exporter, the business community. I will give you data, you just got to take it. So why not take the single window approach a step further and say, I will connect with you, and provided that you are a trusted trader, I will take the data from you. I'm not talking about copyright and particular trade data concerns here, but the principle should be established whereby API goes first and the data can be pulled from me. And if I only rely on commercial data only, then that's a perfect opportunity to engage and have a constant flow of data, omitting the need for a separate customs declaration. Efficiency. Where is the part where across all the single windows in the world, I have a tell me once into one system approach? No single window will be beneficial. No single window will be accepted, unless forced, of course, unless you adopt a tell me once in a one system approach. And this is particularly interesting for the EU because I can connect a lot of national and European systems, but unless I can connect all of the system, including those in the member states, we're not going to have a tell me once one into one system approach. What about facilitating compliance, a key objective of customs administration? We need the captain on the bridge, Star Trek Captain Picard kind of approach, whereby with one access to my single window, I will be given a dashboard, which allows me to see where, as the first presenter mentioned, where is my ship? Where are my goods? Are they held up? Are they being inspected? Is there a document missing? All of this helps to facilitate trade, but it needs to be communicated and it needs to be explained. Efficiency, one place for all, managing licenses, permit, and authorization. I recognize that with the EU CDS system, the European Union is well on their way to get there. But I need this CDS system to be integrated into the single window as well, so that I have one place, one time I upload the information, and that is enough. And then either I upload or we exchange the information through a connection. And I mentioned already, or the speakers actually already mentioned, international operability. That is super important because once we've got it sorted for the European Union and for one country, we then need to think about the connection, the international connection. Why? Because global trade by nature does not involve one country or one jurisdiction. Hey, there is a lot on this slide, and I know my time's up, so I am going to stop it almost very quickly. Just a few words on this, and I invite you to download the slides and really go into details on what I'm mentioning here. As there are requirements from the trade side vis-a-vis customs administrations worldwide and governments worldwide, I recognize the need to do some homework. And business communities are ready to do the homework, provided they can see the added value, and the added value is clearly communicated to them. And here are the things that I recommend businesses consider in preparation for the single window. Do this, and you will be able to leverage the opportunities that the governments around the world, the UN, the EU Commission, etc., provide. Don't do this. You will have to wait until you go through this exercise. And in a nutshell, this includes taking a good hard look at your supply chain, doing a deep dive, mapping commercial and financial flows, then determining the customs requirements based on the knowledge of where you have touch points with customs. So a trade flow with Saudi Arabia, for example, would involve you getting to know how Saudi customs operates. Understanding what single windows then actually exist. What does the Saudi Arabia single window look like, and how do I get access to it would be the logical next step. Creating a working group on the single window, combining different stakeholders that have a stake, pretty much like the European Commission does, because they won't do this in isolation. They'll need to create working groups from various different ministries. Same applies in companies. And then, of course, understanding how the IT systems can be brought together so that you get to one single source of truth. As we, the business community, demand to have one single access point, equally, the governments of the day must be able to demand that we bring all the data together at one point and share it once and not send it from different IT systems. But the biggest impact, and this is where I will conclude, and I thank you for the additional flexibility on time, the biggest impact that businesses can make today is about data. In the end, data will almost become more important than the actual flow of goods. I said almost. Because in a digitalized world, we do not need paper. We don't even need PDFs. We don't need paper, we don't need PDFs, we just need data. So the one thing that I recommend business communities around the world do to bridge the time until single windows worldwide are operational is to adopt the ATC model. In a nutshell, the data that we're going to send to the single windows for processing must always always be accurate, timely, and complete, ATC. And all of these parts, what does that mean? Accurate, timely, and complete. And how do I do that? Are written on the slides in sub-bullet points, which can be the subject of further discussions in the future. Now, with that, I would like to thank you. I hope this was substantive as you would wanted it to be. That's as much as I can say. And in good Eurovision tradition, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ali. I am checking the questions. I think the one question is interesting and relevant, but already answered by our colleague. The question actually is it's more or less related to Brexit, because obviously now you cannot part of the EU. The question is, in the future, the EU single window whether will be connected to the UK trade single window in the future. I see the answer is not the moment, but I think the EU is going to look at different alternatives. But Jeff, I know that time is very limited, but as we are basically in modeling, I want to let you go before you answer one question very briefly. What specific advice would you like to give to Maldives, island country, to embrace the IMO single window?
Yeah, it's actually a very, very good question. I think it's important to establish a system by starting with the most important and then make it larger over the time, meaning that you will have a piecemeal implementation, starting with a very simple system, and then increase it by the needs. Hopefully, cross fingers, that the member state and the country will look into the standards in place, so it's easy for them to adopt. There are other systems in place where you can benefit from looking into, let's say, other developments. I know that Singapore has done a lot together with Norway. IMO has developed systems which they offer inspiration as inspiration. And then I can only support what has been mentioned by Arne, that interoperability is the key to the solution. Harmonization is key to the solution. And if so, it could be beneficial if they looked in way of the IMO compendium for the standards. So the ships at least will have a very simple way of exchanging information from machine to machine, for instance. So it's important to establish a very clear plan of what you want to achieve with the single window, and then take it step by step. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. It's very useful advice for us sitting here. I would like to thank all the three presenters for the very insightful presentation, very informative. I'm mindful that given the very short time available to us, we probably just scratched the surface of this topic. But again, this webinar series, if the audience have a need to really, want to understand some topic specifically, they can always reach out to us, and I think our webinar series will serve the need of the audience. So with this, again, thank you all speakers. I'm going to hand this over to my colleague in Geneva. So Kamola, I think from now on you can take over.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, okay, great, thank you. As you know, we're in the middle of the 40th UNECAP Forum here, so we're
holding a few sessions in parallel. Thank you very much. I'm Kamola Husnudinova. I'm representing United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, where I'm an economic affairs officer and also have been acting as secretary to UNESCAP for over a year now. I would really like to thank you all for great interventions, for very rich and substantive discussions, and there's a lot to take on board, and we will be following up on those. So I would like now to turn to the panel, to our distinguished panel, where we have 3 speakers. We will have Ms. Nelima Pamulapati from UNESCAP. She is a domain coordinator for Single Window. And after her, we will have Ms. Florence Binta Diawa Gueye, who is a lead Trade of Customs International Chamber of Commerce. We will also conclude with the intervention of Mr. Christian Lemke, who is a technical attaché for Compliance and Facilitation Directorate at the World Customs Organization. So it was great to already hear different perspectives from the policymakers' perspective, from the public and private sector, as well as the standard development and our partner agencies. And now, Nelima, if I may turn to you with a question about how UNESCAP standards contribute to new EU single window regulation. So I'll turn the floor to you. I have Nelima here in the room with me since I think there's an echo. So I'm turning the floor to Nelima, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Kamala. Good morning, everyone. Okay. Hi, thank you for the question. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizers for giving us chance to explain what work we are doing in CFAC and how it can help to shape the EU single window regulations. So I would like to take the point that Mr. Jahani has mentioned, that EU single window is all they are looking at connecting customs and non-custom stakeholders, how they can speak. As we know that, public side and government side speak different languages that often affect names and definitions and also quality of data. So at UNESCAP, we have standards and recommendations that link both government and businesses to speak the same language. How we facilitate this connection, this pipeline, is through our recommendations. Starting with our recommendation 33, which is the single window recommendation that actually provides a guideline and a standard to establish the single window in the first place. But to bring the both public side and government side stakeholders, we have a recommendation 34 that is on data harmonization that provides the framework for data simplification and standardization. By aligning to these standards, EU single window can regulate the data elements, formats, and structures used in the trade transactions that can be harmonized. So the harmonization also provides consistency and interoperability among different entities within the single window system. So once the data is harmonized, established, then the next, we also have recommendation 36 that explains both semantic and technical interoperability. When it comes to semantic interoperability, we have a core component library in CFAC, which defines common set of business data elements and their relationships. By adapting these semantic standards, again, it can facilitate the semantic interoperability among different stakeholders. As we know, at national level, implementing a single window itself is a complex process that requires many agencies to bring on board. When we are talking about EU level single window, it's highly important to leverage on these standards and also the harmonization part. Then under this recommendation 36, we also have technical interoperability that provides technical standards and guidelines to define the structure and format of electronic messages that can exchange between different systems. Right. So lastly, to support all this, we have recommendation 35, which is the legal framework that offers the guidelines on legal measures that are necessary for implementation of this single window system. These recommendations and standards, not just for EU single window, but any country that wish to implement single window or already have an existing single window. We have a guidelines on self-assessment as well, which is the current project that our CFACT is working on. Please refer to our CFACT page to know more about these recommendations and standards. And in summary, I would like to say that CFACT standards contribute significantly to the new EU single window regulations by promoting data harmonization, semantic and technical interoperability, and also guidance on legal framework. And all this we have developed by involving experts from industry, government side, and also international organizations. We have 1,500 over experts that are contributing these standards and recommendations. In addition to that, I also want to highlight that we also keep our recommendations reflect to today's times. Last, we also revised our single window recommendation 33 recently to make it more relevant because when we started that, when we first initially published back then, there are not many single window systems. So now in the revised version, which covers the key 5 elements and that defines the single window. So all these standards and recommendations can guide the EU single window implementation. Yeah. Thank you. I hope I have summarized with our recommendations and standards. Yeah, thanks, Kamala.
Thank you very much, Nilima. Indeed, you have covered all the work that is done in UNESCAP. And of course, there is much more, but this was a short summary, as I understand. It's true that interoperability and data harmonization is in the heart of UNESCAP work. And I also invite all the participants to review the recommendations that Nilima cited that are all available on our website, as well as all other work carried out by UNESCAP. Thank you very much. With this, I will turn to Florence in the ICC with a question, how can the private sector embrace these initiatives on single window development?
Thank you, Kamala.
I'll give you the floor, please. Yeah, thank
sorry,
you.
Can you hear me? Hello. Thank you so much, Kamala, and thank you also to the previous speakers. It was very insightful, and I definitely learned a lot. And since Anne talked already a lot about the benefits for the private sector when it comes to single windows, let me talk a bit more about what is important for businesses to buy into single windows. And we know that different single window programs are possible and necessary because there is not a one size fits all. And so let me take a step back and remain on the high level and tell you a bit what applies to basically all single windows. They aim to leverage technology, we know that. And for that, it is even more important to have an enabling legal environment. And my colleagues at the Digital Standards Initiative, they are doing a lot of work on helping to create a harmonized digital environment. And so that means helping with the creation of standards, but also promoting the adoption of standards. And that's where all of our organizations do a lot of work together. And for example, they have a standards toolkit, and they have also done a lot of work with the Digital Container Shipping Association to drive the adoption of digital trade documents. And it was also very good to hear from the previous panelists about the importance of interoperability. And this is also something that is critical for us, and where we know that cooperation between the public and private sector is very important. And so when it comes to single windows, it is really the chosen concept that defines it. And I want to highlight 3 points that are important for the private sector when it comes to single windows. The first one is clarity on the rules and functioning, because this is important for the creator, but also for the user of the single window. Information needs to be accessible, and enough time needs to be allocated for companies to adapt their systems. And Arne talked a bit already what companies can do to prepare for single windows before they come into place. And the EU is doing a lot also on sharing information and keeping everyone informed on the upcoming steps. The second point I want to highlight is governance, because it's important to know who will drive the single window. The rules and standards need to be defined between the various government agencies that are involved. Who is responsible for certain goods? Oftentimes, an expansion happens. And so this is when it is even more important to have a clear structure in place. And of course, stakeholders include ministries, border management agencies, but also private sector actors. And I mean, you can have just an example. For meat in one country, you have 4 different agencies that have a say in it. So there needs to be an agreement on the functioning of the system. And this means that coordination is critical. And this is something that we say in on a lot of topics, that it is important to have a continuous input possibility or opportunity for the private sector. And this is why a clear governance structure will also help define the success of any single window, because it is an intrinsically cooperative effort. And in the end, humans need to buy into it and see the benefits. And this is what leads me to my third point, because this will help accomplish the right mindset and increase the trust when stakeholders work together. And because when it comes to trust, another important issue for the private sector, and this is something I haven't heard yet, not very much, it's the security of the confidential business information. Because single windows collect and share a lot of data, and it is very important for companies to know that this data is handled securely and not shared outside of the scope of the single window use. And this also applies, of course, between different authorities and different countries. And this is particularly important when we talk about linking different single windows. And just let me finish by saying that addressing and resolving these 3 points will help getting the private sector on board for single windows. And let me give the floor back to you, Kamola. Thank you.
Thank you, Florence, for a very detailed overview and for this insightful remarks and really summarizing the 3 important points that help to get the private sector on board. Not only for the private sector, but also for the governments, this is important. And we keep hearing this a lot, that coordination and harmonization is key to really reap all the benefits that the standards can offer for the cross-border exchange. So I'm totally on board on this with you. And this actually does bring me to the next question, which I would like to ask Christian. And the question would be, what challenges do you see from the WCO perspective with harmonizing different standards? Christian, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Kamola, and greetings from the WCO Secretariat in Brussels. Very interesting speakers so far, and greetings to the UNCFACT Forum in Geneva, and the ongoing workshop on single window in Maldives. I knew we have a lot of audience from this room. And thanks for your question. So to respond to your question, what are the challenges I see or WCO sees with the harmonizing different standards? So in a sense, our goal is to reduce redundancies in standardization process, as also highlighted by Arne in his inspiring presentation, particularly within the same domain by considering the business requirements and the need for standardization. It's important to avoid introducing new standards when a suitable and actively maintained standard already exists. So take our collaboration with the ICC as an example. We work together to achieve this objective by advising the ICC not to develop a new standard as part of its digital standard initiative if a relevant one is already in place. Florence already touched on this promising initiative. The Digital Standard Initiative primarily focuses on accelerating the implementation of existing standards rather than creating new ones. This initiative enables the WCO to heighten awareness among supply chain stakeholders about vital documents and data elements for customs administrations, thereby streamlining customs control and speeding up border crossing clearance. The WCO data model is an international standard that has a clear purpose, created based on a strong mandate and a business case in connection with an international convention, the revised Kyoto Convention, and offering a collection of well-organized, harmonized, and reusable data definitions and electronic messages. These are designed to meet the operational and legal demands of customs and other cross-border regulatory agencies tasked with managing borders. This standard is influenced by our members, tasked our members through a transparent data maintenance request process, which allows the WCO data model to evolve and publish new version each year to keep pace with the need of our members. The WCO actively cooperate with partner international organizations for harmonizing standards, specifically for cross-domain processes related to customs and single window processes. In this regard, we included activity to work with Codex to develop harmonized solution for food safety related certification, with the International Maritime Organization for enabling customs maritime single windows, converged as introduced by Jeppe in his presentation. With the Basel Convention Secretariat to enable efficient transboundary movement of hazardous waste, and with the UNESCAP to harmonize some subsets of the WCO data model to the UNESCAP core component library, as mentioned by Nelima in her response. And potential collaboration with other international organizations are in pipeline for similar purposes. So harmonizing key standards could have immense benefits for users and enhances global supply chain interoperability. However, challenges remain in achieving this goal. The first challenge lies in creating awareness of the harmonization benefits among relevant working and policy groups. With the right mandate, such as for the WCO data model from the data model projects team, collaboration can commence with experts from both standards. For example, to map relevant data elements and publish the results as part of the publication package. Another challenge is the limited resources of the working groups, which requires prioritization of work items. Looking forward, we must continue fostering cooperation with international organizations and promoting the benefits of standard harmonization to overcome these challenges. By doing so, we can enhance the efficiency of global supply chain operations, customs controls, and cross-border regulatory processes, and fostering single window interconnectivity. As we progress, our collaboration with partner organizations will remain instrumental in achieving harmonization across various domains and processes, ultimately driving improvement in global trade and security. Major developments such as the EU single window do not start from scratch, but can build on established international standards and thus benefit from global interoperability. Thank you very much. And I hope I responded to your question.
Thank you very much, Christian. Yes, indeed, you covered the challenges with harmonizing different standards, and you touched upon a very important point, maintaining existing standards, which we at the UNEC and UNESCAP put a very strong emphasis on. And indeed, this helps for the interconnection. Now, I do have a second round of questions that I was hoping to do. However, I think we have 5 more minutes left. So maybe we do it, and I think you have partially covered my question, which was considering that we have already explored many synergies between different speakers, different partners, different organizations. There's clearly a lot of ground to collaborate on this important issue. So my question was, what are the additional opportunities for partnership and collaboration, which I think, Christian, you have already covered. So if you allow me, I will go to the rest of the panel and then maybe back to Maldives to see whether there's any, whether our colleagues in ESCAP and ADB would also like to address this question. So Christian, unless you have anything else to add on this point, I would turn it over to Florence. Is that okay with you? Okay,
yes,
thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Christian.
Kamola. And I think this webinar is already a great example of collaboration. I think a lot of our organizations are already working together quite well. And I was just scrolling through the Q&A box, and there are quite a number of questions. And I wonder if maybe we should take one from there. I know that there are some that are already answered live, but I don't know if that, because there are some questions, I think, for the other speakers.
I'll be happy to do that. If we have, according to my schedule, I understand we have 4 minutes left, but I'm not sure. I will let Tengfei confirm whether we have only 4 minutes or more time.
Kamola, if you can hear.
Yes, I can hear you.
Maldives, we have quite a large audience here. There is some people want to ask one quick question. Would it be all right with everyone? Yes. Okay. Silent means it's okay. Is there anyone who wants to ask me? No, if not, I'm very glad to report that we also see that there are international experts that we take more deep to share their expertise. So the experts also very keen to ask quite quick question of maybe.
I don't know whether this is my connection or I'm not hearing you very well, but I think if I'm understanding, there's a proposal to extend a little bit the session. Can you just let me know if my understanding is correct? I couldn't hear that very well. You have an echo in the room.
Can you hear me?
According to me, they can.
Hello, can you hear me? No problem for me. That's good. Okay. Hi, I'm Jonathan Cole. Actually, right now I'm the head of customs in Neom, Saudi Arabia. Well, I've listened to your speeches quite well. I think it's important to contextualize talking about latest development and trends in single window. First and foremost, the maritime single window caters for maritime industry, and in many cases, as in the area of trade single window, regulatory single window, essentially the MWS IMO initiative in the context of a larger national single window is essentially a module. So I have to contextualize that with the maritime single window, the problem that we have in the world is about semantics, because to follow UNECAP and my colleague or ex-colleague of UNECAP, recommendation 33 is in a national scale. Either it's called a national single window or regulatory single window. The problem is how the world is using this term called single window. It can be single window for almost any other thing. So marine single window essentially caters for the ship to shore. That it has an interplay with regulatory and trade, but it is in a country like Maldives or in many other countries is a module of the national single window, only just a module. Latest development on the single window, the EU, you have your single window.
in the context of regional single window, there are also multiple regional single windows around the world, ASEAN single window being one of the earliest. So I think that there are many approach and solutions, and there's no one size fits all. So I would say that everything has to be contextualized to the national agenda and the national objectives. And therefore, when I work in multiple countries in terms of this, it has to be contextualized. So I would say that while I appreciate the panel about your various latest development and trends, taking onto the global scene, got the EU being developed, Asia Pacific, Middle East, South Asia. I think that it's important that we have to find the right fit for the right context. And I think the standards world, international standards world, ICC, UNESCAP, WCO, WTO, would have to cater for different countries in terms of different countries' development stages and their context. So I think that's my take on this whole.
Thank you. Kamola, in your session, perhaps you would like to invite each panelist to give us one key message before we wrap up.
Thank you, Teng Fei. Yes, I thought it would be good to give Florence an opportunity to also cover the opportunities for partnership and collaboration. And maybe after that, yeah, I think then we can turn the floor back to you, because we pretty much covered also what Nilima didn't have any additional points. So I think if Florence covers that, we can give the floor back to you and to your participants in the room. I see you have a full room. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamola. So yeah, I think as I mentioned before, on the international level, our organizations are working together quite well. And as the speaker in the room also said, it's really not one size fits all. And so the single windows on the national or regional levels, I would say there are a lot of opportunities for cooperation, and there are maybe partnerships that should be explored and processes established that allow for continuous input and that the stakeholders work together. So I think there, from what I hear from our members across sectors, across regions, is that when establishing, or also there's also the need to continuously improve single windows. And that's when it's really important actually to work together with the private sector and also the other stakeholders. So I would highlight that point for answering to your question, because it's not only the global level in this context that counts, but also the local and regional one.
Yes, thank you very much. It's a range of stakeholders, as you rightfully mentioned. And we do have many of the stakeholders here in the session, and also the speeches that we had earlier and the rich panel discussion. So I thank you very much for that. I think I will turn the floor back to Teng Fei now, considering we're a little bit behind on the schedule. So I'll stop here, and Teng Fei, I'm turning over to you.
Thank you very much. I think it's time for us to really wrap up. I think it's a very good webinar. It's a lot of information for digestion. I think it gives 1.5 hours. As I mentioned earlier, that it's not really possible to really fully understand all the topics. But again, I see this is the webinar series, and the audience would like to better understand some specific topics, please reach out to us, and we very much look forward to meeting you again in the future webinars. Thank you. Thank you. So look forward to you. See you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye-bye. Bye.